Let's look at South Africa. The relationship between South Africa and Rwanda. There are people who are saying that they are not where the relationship or the working together and the collaboration should be. In other words, the relationship is not healthy. We know that the issue of the visas, which the two leaders agree that it must be resolved, it hasn't been resolved. And people are saying it emanates from those people who are from Rwanda, who are in South Africa, who were killed, and government having a hand, and therefore there's that mistrust.
When was that? When were they killed?
Some years back.
Okay, yeah, because the reason I was asking that is it wasn't to test you or anything. I actually wanted to put things in the right perspective. The problems with South Africa have been actually long running. I think they ended with who came after Mbeki?
President Jacob Zuma.
Yeah, there is a period of
President Kgalema Motlanthe.
Then
yes.
So the relationship to start limping started way back, even before we started having an issue of presence of Rwandans in South Africa. In fact, what I remember, during that period, which you remember the years? Anyway, let me not put it.
Kgalema Motlanthe.
Yeah, we took after
2008 to 2009.
Yeah, that's when it stopped, more or less. That's when the good relationship started. Before that, I will give you something which is outstanding and speaks for itself. Mandela, Mbeki, and on up to that period, we had very good relationship. Not only good in other senses, but very beneficial. We have a lot of young people who were allowed to come to South Africa and study, and many of them were victims, others of genocide, others were even children of perpetrators. We sent a big number, it is their hundreds over time. And because South Africa facilitated
the Sun City talks.
Absolutely. And also facilitated how these people should come there, and they were almost paying school fees as at the level of South Africans, which was a wonderful thing. There was no issue of visa, there was no... And it was a huge contribution to what we have today, in fact, in terms of progress. These young people, anyone you meet here who is around 30, over 30, will tell you they have been to South Africa to study during that period. So it's a wonderful thing. And then after that, we started wondering what was going on. Up to 2010, then there's this man who died in South Africa, who used to head
the intelligence. Well, the first question is, why would somebody, even who was heading intelligence here, be in South Africa as a refugee? It is both ways. Well, here you can ask, why did he run from here? Yeah, but that doesn't justify that he be killed?
No, I haven't said that. I'm just explaining, I'm telling you the story. Then, so that has its own explanation. I want to go into details of what he did and so on, and then went to South Africa. And I think when he went to South Africa, he also started, he added to the toxic relationships that everything started going really terribly bad. And in fact, he even started organizing from there and so on and so forth. So the issue of being killed is just singled out because killing, of course, significantly causes outrage. But who is even the one who proved that he was actually, where is the evidence, where is the story coming from? Who can stand and say, yes, I'm sure this is the one who did it? Because we even, by the way, engaged South Africa to say, let's actually follow to understand what happened. At some point, government in South Africa at the time accepted, and then the next day it is like, for them they just took a position, and that's what we should also take, and there was no investigation allowed. Why would they have not wanted investigation to take place? That we were willing to engage with them on and go into the facts. So, but they decided to veto what it was, and that's it, what everybody must believe now. So that continued. By the way, it has continued up to this day, even more intensely this time. And we have been sharing constantly the information, the worries we have about what these people have been involved in. Now, we started even seeing people from far, like the ones we talked about, European countries and others, these activists around genocide issues and turning Rwanda into, the worst country to live in, and that's why they don't live there, relocating to South Africa. So which means there is good ground for them to go and operate from there. That has been growing with the time.
But can't you engage the current president, President Ramaphosa?
We have. I have. You ask him. You ask the other members of government.
He's coming to the commemoration.
I'm very happy that he's coming. Maybe we shall have another level of conversation. Absolutely happy that he's coming. But we have. Let me tell you this. And why I was earlier blaming SADC leaders to have acted in the way they did. We are involved, Rwanda is involved in Mozambique.
Yes, Cabo Delgado region,
Delgado.
Where they are insurgents.
Yes, when we were asked to participate, try and help in that situation by Mozambique, and we agreed. I don't know whether people are aware, they might be, because I have even said it before. Before we got involved in Mozambique, I found it important to, one, tell Mozambicans that, by the way, you should also talk to your colleagues in SADC, so that when we come there, there is no question around that. I could have easily said, let's go. But I found it important to engage SADC. In fact, not only did I discuss it with the president of Mozambique, I even discussed it with President Ramaphosa. I went to him. We had a meeting in Paris. There was a meeting there to do with the financing and so on. Many countries.
I remember very well.
Yes, many. I sought him out, particularly for that. I went to him and said, we have been approached, we are thinking of doing that, helping in the situation in Mozambique, and our demand has been, we want to be clear with SADC countries that we are coming and why. And in fact, in the same period, I know for a fact, even the president of Mozambique and South Africa met to discuss the issue that he was raising. A few weeks after, letters were written, I have records here, saying SADC is clear, you can deploy. Why was I going through all that? Because, first of all, in Mozambique's sovereignty, they could even have said, no, we invite whoever I want to invite, which is fine. And also for me to participate with a friendly country like Mozambique, who have invited us, they could say, well, we have the invitation, so we are going. But I found it important to actually make sure that all of these other efforts were made to involve others. Why couldn't it have been done even in DRC? Why did it happen like there was rivalry, there was misunderstanding, there was... why? Reasonable leaders, why would they behave like that? This has been my question. In fact, I'm saying this publicly, painfully also, because maybe some people expect that these things should not be for public discussion, we should be talking quietly to each other. No, but I'm saying it to express even my frustration about the issue. So are the same people all of us, who are behaving like this, are we going to be the ones to address these problems that are complicated, that involve our countries for one reason or another, and blaming each other and doing that? We can't address it like that.
Are you still hopeful that you can find one another on these issues with South Africa?
I hope so. And all we need to do is to keep trying. Because what else should we do other than trying? I hope it is. Because, and it is not, we are not talking about an insurmountable problem. We are not talking about a problem that is too complicated. I don't think so. We just have to have our right mind,
political will to solve the problems of the continent.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, Mr. President, it's ordinary Africans who are suffering.
That's very true. Absolutely true. I completely agree with you.
Mr. President, on a parting shot, ahead of this important day on Sunday, what is your message to the international community when you look at what's happening in Ukraine, when you look at what's happening in the Middle East? You know better. What is your message to the world leaders about these two problems, including on the continent, Sudan?
Yeah.
How must leaders behave? People are saying the current leadership around the globe don't care.
Yeah, you know then how that becomes complicated. and so we're out of my control and the scope of things. I'm busy struggling to manage my situation here in small Rwanda, and then the neighboring countries. The globe is in turmoil. But I will have this to say. And the first message, I want it to go to my brothers and sisters on the African continent before I go global. We know for a fact, maybe some of these powers and so on don't really care about so many things about us. If you want to run yourself down, they will help you to run yourself down. If you want to do anything, but why don't we take care of ourselves? What is so difficult? What is so hard? What don't we have? Just like the questions you are raising. If leaders met two or whatever number and to address a shared problem, find a solution, why should we fail? Or why should we even think about beyond us before we have even tried our own efforts to resolve this matter. Because there is nothing that is too complicated to understand. We know most of these things. They are about us. They are about us. So the first message is to, before we worry about what is globally happening, which we should be worried about, we need to start here at home. So what is the excuse? Then for the rest of the world, the way I think and come to it, is the rest of the world has, got used to, they do their thing, they do whatever they want to do in their own interest, but then they come to Africa to just line us up and tell you do this, do that. They say democracy, and we start singing that as well, even without understanding the meaning. Because for them, when they say, we want to bring you freedom, democracy, you must do this, you must do that. Fine. It's a good sound bite. But why are you struggling also? You're the ones giving us lessons. Why would you be struggling? Elsewhere other than Africa, like the cases you mentioned, whether you talked of Ukraine, you talk about, there are many other things that will crop up outside of Africa, even if they affect Africa. When you see the problems somewhere, some parts of the Middle East, when you have problems maybe in Asia, you have, so maybe these are happening because those who give us lessons about these things are actually failing in their responsibilities. That's one. Or they are also telling us lies about things they say, their nations are founded on, they are leaders, they are the champions, and when they come to tell you to do what they want you to do, all they mean is just putting you in a position where you are answerable to them and where their interests are served, minus your own interests. They leave you naked. Your interests are not served, theirs are served, but with a good message. So, but if they have this good message and values they so much talk about, why do they even have their own problems internally or among them? Well, you can even argue and say, but democracy does not mean having no problems. Actually, managing democracy itself is a problem. True. But if managing my democracy is a problem, why do you want to be the one to address it? First of all, if you're talking about democracy. Secondly, if you even have to struggle with your own, why don't you let me struggle with my own? And maybe that's going to be better than you trying to give direction to whatever I'm doing. They talk about freedoms, don't you? You are in this business, you know that. But when you step out of even their own place, they really shut people's mouths if they don't want you to, because it is not in the line of their thinking. You'd have people who sing the songs they want to sing, but when it comes to real hard issues, you see places, racism, this, people being killed in broad daylight for who they are. Why should it be happening? Why don't you go and deal with that? If your situation is so perfect, as perfect as to dictate that you come, you run around the world telling people what to do. Why don't you first also deal with your problems? I'm therefore saying there is a lot we can do. There will always be, there is no country, continent that is an island that will work without others. Indeed, we inevitably and rightly so, we should have partnerships with the rest of the world. But you want to go into a partnership with other parts of the world before you even do the minimum on your side, before my country is put in right and in good order, then before our region comes together, and the continent needs to come together, whether it is through the regional groupings or the continental level or the African Union. I don't see that happening. We meet there, everyone is for himself. I mean, this does not serve us well. So how can we even talk about global issues and make headway without making some headway on our particular issues that we know so well that affect us directly, and we should and really have the capacity to deal with if we wanted, if we chose to do so.
Mr. President, we spoke about democracy. This is the last question.
Yes, please.
Mr. President, the elections in Rwanda, what are you saying to your critics who are saying perhaps it's time for a new leader to emerge, but we know that you will be on the ballot?
Yeah, I agree. If there came a new leader, I would be happy. In fact, these critics should come and present themselves. They shouldn't just stay out, criticizing. They should come and present themselves. Maybe they can.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.